Why would you even need that old car, huh? Your brother deserves a fresh start. Her words cut through the cake candles like cold wind. The frosting was still untouched, the room still smelling of smoke from lit wicks. But my birthday had already been stolen. The next sound was paper sliding across the table. A loan agreement. $12,000 in debt. Co-sign or get out. Hi everyone, my name is Alyssa, I'm 24. And if you think birthdays are about balloons and love, you're wrong. Mine became a courtroom, verdict delivered by my own mother. I stared at the paper, my brother smirking like he'd already won. My father stayed quiet, the silence that always felt heavier than words. The cake candles fizzled out in the draft from the ceiling fan. And in that moment my chest tightened, like I was breathing against a locked door. I didn't argue. Not a single word. I just looked at the ink, the cheap pen resting on the table, and the family who decided I was expendable. My hand didn't reach for the pen. It reached for my phone, for the notes app where words could at least belong to me. Hours later the house went quiet. My bag was already zipped. No one noticed my absence while my brother unwrapped the birthday watch Mom claimed she couldn't afford last month. I left the car keys on the dresser. Empty shell, since the car wasn't even mine anymore. And by morning, the only thing left of me in that house was the folded letter on the kitchen counter. I could already picture it. Mom's trembling hands holding it, Dad slamming the door as he drove around looking for me, and my brother's smug face cracking for the very first time. Because silence is the sharpest knife. And I had just made my first cut. The sun hadn't even climbed past the rooftops when my father's truck roared out of the driveway. I could imagine his jaw clenched, his hand slamming the steering wheel as he muttered that I was being dramatic. My mother? She was probably still at the kitchen table, rereading my letter over and over, hoping the words would rearrange themselves into something softer. But I know what I wrote. And I know how sharp it was. You didn't just sell my car. You sold my future. You cashed out years of my hard work, my late nights, my early mornings. You decided my dreams could fund his mistakes. I won't co-sign his debt, but I'll gladly sign myself out of this house. Consider this my birthday gift to myself. Freedom. That was the truth they didn't want to face. I walked with my duffel bag swinging against my hip, each step away from that house like a breath I'd been holding for years. The streets were quiet. Just the sound of sprinklers hissing and the buzz of a lawnmower blocks away. For the first time in a long time I felt something that almost resembled peace. But peace is fragile. My phone wouldn't stop vibrating in my pocket. 20 missed calls from Dad. 7 from Mom. A single venom-laced text from my brother. You think running makes you better than me? You'll crawl back. You always do. I stared at his message and smiled. A hollow, bitter smile. He didn't understand yet. This wasn't about running. This was about rising. By the time I reached the bus station, the sky had turned pale gold. I bought a one-way ticket with the emergency cash I'd hidden for months just in case. Deep down, maybe I'd always known this day would come. As the bus hissed and pulled forward, I pressed my forehead to the window, watching my hometown shrink into the distance. My phone lit up again. A voicemail. My mother's voice, cracked and uneven. Alyssa, please, come home. We didn't mean for it to go this far. Just talk to us. Please. But the thing about begging sounds different when it comes after betrayal. And in that moment I realized, they weren't afraid of losing me. They were afraid of losing control of me. The bus rumbled beneath me, a low steady growl that matched the storm in my chest. My bag sat at my feet, half-filled clothes, a folder of documents I'd guarded like treasure, and the letter I didn't sign. The one that was supposed to chain me to my brother's $12,000 disaster. I stared out the window as the town gave way to fields, my reflection faint in the glass. For the first time in years I looked like someone I didn't fully recognize. Not the dutiful daughter who handed over paychecks for the family. Not the older sister who patched holes in my brother's reckless life. I was stripped down to something rawer. Someone freer. But freedom doesn't arrive without echoes. My phone buzzed again. This time not with my mother's voice or my father's silence. It was my aunt. Sweetheart, what's happening? Your mom called me crying. She said you left a note. I almost laughed. Of course Mom had spread the story first. She was probably already rehearsing her martyr lines. We only wanted what's best. Alyssa just doesn't understand. But my aunt's voice cracked differently. Not manipulative. Concerned. And that scared me more than the guilt calls because it reminded me that maybe, just maybe, someone out there still saw me. I typed out a short reply. I'm safe. Don't let them twist this. I'll explain soon. As I hit send, a memory flooded back. Me at 16 standing in that same kitchen, begging Mom not to pull money from my college fund for urgent repairs. She'd sworn she'd replace it. By the time I graduated, the account was a ghost. And when I confronted her, she said, "Your brother's future matters more right now. You'll manage." That was the script of my life. I'll manage. But I was done managing their chaos. The bus slowed at a stop, new passengers shuffling on. I clutched my bag tighter. In the distance, my phone buzzed again, another text from my brother. "If you don't come back, don't expect a family anymore." I whispered to myself, almost like a prayer. I don't. And for the first time I believed it. The bus rolled deeper into the city, its hum almost hypnotic. But my mind wouldn't rest. My brother's last text, "Don't expect a family anymore," kept flashing in my head like a neon sign. What he thought was a threat felt more like liberation. I scrolled through my phone past the dozens of missed calls until one notification stopped me cold. Bank alert. A withdrawal. My checking account, the one only I was supposed to have access to, had been drained of $600. My stomach twisted. I knew exactly who had done it. The same way they sold my car without asking. The same way they raided my college fund. They still believed my life was an open wallet for my brother's mistakes. Anger rose like heat in my chest, but beneath it was something sharper. Clarity. I couldn't just run. I needed proof. I needed protection. I pulled out the folder from my bag. Documents I'd been collecting quietly for months. Bank statements, receipts, even text screenshots. I hadn't known what I was saving them for, but now the puzzle was clear. I was building my case. The bus hissed to another stop. Through the window, I spotted the skyline of a law office I'd passed 100 times before. My hands trembled, but I stood. This wasn't about running anymore. This was about fighting with silence turned into evidence. As I stepped off, the city air hit me like a slap. Sharp electric rayol. I pulled my jacket tighter and walked straight to the glass doors. Inside, the receptionist looked up. "Do you have an appointment?" My voice barely wavered. "No. I have proof. And I need someone who can help me before my family destroys what's left of me." She nodded slowly, sliding a clipboard toward me. For the first time in years, I wasn't signing for my brother's mistakes. I was signing for my own survival. And in that sterile, quiet lobby, I realized my birthday gift wasn't freedom. It was war. The pen felt heavier than it should as I filled out the intake form. Name, number, reason for consultation. My handwriting shook, but each letter carved something final into the page. I was no longer theirs to control. Minutes later, I was sitting in a small office with floor-to-ceiling shelves and a desk stacked with files. Across from me, a woman in her 40s adjusted her glasses. She had that practiced calm, the kind of stillness you only earn by swimming in storms. "Tell me everything," she said. And I did. The sold car. The cashed-out college fund. The loan agreement shoved at me like a birthday candle to blow out. The drained checking account. My brother's smug entitlement. My parents' silence when he took and took. Her pen moved quickly, but her eyes stayed on me. Listening. Really listening, in a way my own family never had. When I finished, she leaned back, tapping her pen against the desk. "You've kept records?" I slid the folder across to her. Bank statements. Texts. Even the letter I'd left behind. She flipped through, nodding. "You've done half my job already." I let out a bitter laugh. Guess surviving in that house trained me well. Her gaze softened. "You have a case. Financial exploitation, unauthorized withdrawals, potentially even fraud if your name was used without consent. If you want to pursue this, Alyssa, you won't just be walking away, you'll be taking back what's yours." The words lit something in me. A small, fierce flame. Not just escape. Justice. But fear slithered in too. My mother crying. My father's truck searching. The word family hanging like a ghost. As if reading my hesitation, the lawyer added, "Sometimes the family we're born into isn't the one that protects us. Sometimes protecting yourself means letting them face consequences." I nodded slowly. My phone buzzed again, another call from Dad. I turned it face down. For once, I wasn't rushing to answer. I was building a world where their voices didn't own me. And as I signed the legal retainer, I felt it, the first true breath of my adult life. The days that followed were a blur of signatures, statements, and strategy meetings. My lawyer moved with precision, weaving my pile of documents into something sharp enough to cut through the lies I knew my family would spin. Meanwhile, my phone became a gallery of desperation. Voicemails from Mom. "Alyssa, please, you don't understand what this will do to us." Texts from Dad. "Come home. We'll work it out as a family." And from my brother, always venom. "You think some lawyer makes you better than us? You're dead to me. Dead to him." The words should have hurt. Instead, they freed me more than any bus ride could. One evening, sitting in my tiny sublet apartment with paint peeling off the walls, I played the voicemails on speaker. The room filled with their voices, layered like a chorus of ghosts. I closed my eyes, letting every syllable etch deeper into my resolve. Because here's the thing about betrayal. Once it's clear, you can't unsee it. You can't go back to pretending the knife isn't already in your back. My lawyer filed the first motions. A request for an injunction to freeze any accounts linked to my name, and a fraud investigation into the unauthorized withdrawals. It wasn't about the $600 anymore. It was about every time they told me I owed them my future. The fallout was immediate. My brother's smug text shifted to panic. "What did you do?" "They froze the card. I can't access anything. Fix this." For the first time, he was the one scrambling. I sat in the dim light, staring at his words. The shift in power wasn't loud. It was silent, like a tide turning under a black sky. And I realized something. Revenge doesn't always come with fireworks. Sometimes it comes with paperwork and patience. That night, I whispered to myself, "Let them panic. Let them run. I'm not chasing anymore." And for the first time in years, I slept without my phone under my pillow. By the end of the week, the silence broke. Not from my phone, from the front desk of my lawyer's office. "They're here," the receptionist whispered, eyes wide. I turned and there they were. My mother, face pale and streaked with mascara. My father, stiff with anger, arms crossed like a barricade. And my brother, pacing like a caged animal, jaw tight, his eyes flicking to the folder clutched in my hands. "Alyssa," Mom started, voice trembling. "Please. You don't have to do this. We're family." Family. The word felt like a cracked plate. Something they'd shattered but still wanted to serve dinner on. I didn't flinch. "You sold my car. You emptied my fund. You drained my account. You shoved a loan contract in front of me on my birthday. That's not family. That's theft dressed up in love." My father's face darkened. "We did what we had to for your brother. And now," my lawyer interjected calmly, "you'll answer for it in court if necessary." The room froze. My brother scoffed, trying to mask the panic in his voice. "You wouldn't drag us into court. You're bluffing." I laid the evidence folder on the table between us. "I don't bluff." For the first time, his bravado cracked. He looked at Dad, then at Mom, realizing the fortress he'd lived behind was crumbling brick by brick. Mom's hand shook as she reached toward me. "We can fix this. Just drop it. Please. We'll pay you back somehow." I met her eyes, steady. "It's too late to buy me back." The weight of my words settled over the room, and in that silence I saw it. Their fear wasn't about money. It was about losing the one person who always absorbed the damage. But I was done being their shield. When they left the office that day, I didn't feel victory. I felt something deeper, the slow, steady rise of my own spine. And I knew the final chapter of this war was still to come. The hearing was set for a Thursday morning. The courthouse smelled faintly of old paper and polished wood, a place where truths and lies were forced to sit under the same fluorescent light. I clutched my folder, but this time I wasn't trembling. I was steady. My parents sat on one bench, whispering frantically, their lawyer flipping pages. My brother, slouched beside them, kept drumming his fingers on his knee, his arrogance gone, replaced by restless dread. When my name was called, I stood. My voice carried, not loud but clear. I laid out the withdrawals, the car sale, the loan contract, the years of siphoned funds. Every word was a weight lifted from my chest, every document a mirror held up to their betrayal. The judge listened quietly, then turned to them. "Do you dispute these records?" They couldn't. Their lawyer stammered, trying to paint it as family miscommunication. But the paper trail spoke louder. The injunction was upheld. Accounts frozen. Repayment plan enforced. And my brother's debt? His alone. As the gavel fell, I didn't cheer. I simply breathed. Outside, the air was sharp with autumn. My mother tried one last time, her voice breaking. Alyssa, don't do this. We're still your family. I looked at her, really looked. And I realized she wasn't crying because she lost me. She was crying because she lost control of me. I didn't do this to break us apart, I said softly. I did this so I could finally stand whole. My father turned away, my brother muttered curses under his breath. But me. I walked down those courthouse steps lighter than I had in years. That night, in my tiny apartment, I baked myself a small cake. No candles. No crowd. Just me, a fork, and silence that didn't suffocate. It soothed. I thought about the girl who left that letter on the counter. About the family frantically searching, crying, panicking. About the strength it took not to turn back. And as I cut the first slice, I whispered, "Happy birthday, Alyssa. You finally gave yourself the gift no one else ever would." For once, the silence wasn't sharp. It was safe.